Welcome back, everyone, to the Deep Dive. You know we love to take deep dives, and today is no exception. We're diving deep into the world of retail real estate. Specifically, how to find that perfect location if you're a new business.
Yeah.
We're going to be focusing on this article we found called Avoiding Pitfalls, How Commercial Brokers Protect New Retailers.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it was a really interesting title.
Yeah, it is.
And it really got me thinking about, all of the different things you have to think about when you're first starting a business.
Yeah.
And it's so easy to overlook the real estate part of it.
Right.
And how crucial that is. So, maybe we should just jump right in. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I mean, real estate is one of the most important decisions a new retailer is going to make. And it can make or break a business.
Absolutely. And this article really makes the case for working with a commercial broker.
Right.
They kind of paint the broker as like the retail superhero.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Have you found that to be true?
Yeah. I mean, a good broker can be an invaluable asset to a new retailer.
Right.
They can really guide them through the process of finding and securing a retail space. They can really hold their hand through the whole thing.
Yeah. Okay, so let's break that down a little bit. The article talks about how brokers bring market insights.
Right.
What does that actually mean? What does that mean in practical terms?
Well, they have a really deep understanding of the local market. So, for example, let's say you're opening a high-end fashion boutique.
Okay.
A good broker is going to be able to analyze the foot traffic data, demographics, and even look at competitor locations to pinpoint the area with the highest concentration of your target customer.
Oh.
So in this case, affluent shoppers.
I see. So it's really like matching your ideal customer to where they already are.
Exactly.
That's fascinating. But I'm thinking, couldn't a retailer in theory do this research themselves?
They could, but it would be really, really difficult.
Okay.
A broker is going to have access to all these databases, powerful analytical tools that the average retailer probably wouldn't have. And plus, they've got years of experience interpreting that data and knowing how to make informed recommendations. It's like the difference between reading a medical textbook and consulting with a seasoned doctor.
I see. Okay. So it's about leveraging their expertise.
Right.
To save yourself time and potentially some costly mistakes.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. Now, the article also mentions property identification.
Right.
So is that not as simple as, getting online and looking at listings?
No, it's not really.
Wow.
Because brokers often have access to off-market properties. So these are spaces that aren't publicly listed.
Right.
And they also have all these relationships with landlords and other brokers that give them a much wider net to cast.
So they're like plugged into the network.
Exactly.
They know what's coming available.
Exactly.
That's fascinating. Okay, so let's say you found a place. Now you have to talk about the lease.
Right.
And this is where I think a lot of new retailers get really nervous.
Yeah.
What are some ways that brokers can help with that?
Well, a broker understands the nuances of a commercial lease agreement,
Uh-huh.
which can be very complex, full of legal jargon.
Oh, yeah.
They know what's standard, what's negotiable, and what are some red flags to watch out for.
Okay.
And they can often use their relationships to secure more favorable terms for you.
So it's not just getting you into a space, it's getting you a good deal.
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow. Okay, so they can really fight for your best interest in that case.
Exactly. They can negotiate everything from the base rent to the length of the lease term tenant improvement allowances, even things like exclusivity clauses to prevent a competitor from opening up next door to you.
That's incredible. Okay, so that all sounds really great.
Right.
But the article also mentions some potential downsides of working with brokers. So what's the catch?
Well, I mean, like any profession, there's good brokers and bad brokers.
True.
One of the biggest concerns is the possibility of a conflict of interest.
Oh.
Because some brokers represent both landlords and tenants.
How do you represent both sides? How is that even possible?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And it's definitely something you need to address with any potential broker that you're thinking about working with.
Okay.
You want to be sure that their primary loyalty is to you, the retailer,
Okay.
and that they're not prioritizing the landlord's interests over yours.
Yeah. So it's really about that transparency and clear communication.
Exactly.
Knowing who they're really working for.
Right.
Okay. So what other potential pitfalls should new retailers be aware of?
Well, another concern is working with a broker who has a limited property portfolio.
Okay.
You don't want to be limited to just a handful of options. especially if they don't align with your vision or budget.
Right. It's like going to a restaurant with only one item on the menu.
Exactly.
You're kind of stuck. Okay, and then the article also talks about communication.
Yes.
That seems obvious, but what could go wrong on that front?
Well, imagine you're looking for a vibrant storefront on a bustling street, but your broker keeps showing you spaces in quiet residential areas. You know that's a communication breakdown waiting to happen.
Right.
So it's really important to be very clear about your needs, your budget, your vision for the space.
From the beginning.
From the very beginning, yeah.
Wow. Okay, so it's not just about finding you a space, it's about finding you the right space.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. A good broker will take the time to really understand your business, your brand, and your target customer. And they'll ask questions. They'll listen carefully
Right.
to your answers, and they'll just make sure that they're on the same page as you before they even start showing you properties.
Okay, so finding the right broker sounds almost as important as finding the right space.
It really is.
But what happens when you do find that perfect location?
Right.
Then you've got to talk about the lease.
Right.
And that's where things, I'm assuming, can get really complicated.
It can be really complicated, yeah. Lease agreements can be very dense, intimidating, especially for a first-time business owner. But they're incredibly important because this is a legally binding contract that outlines the terms of your tenancy. And one small clause can have, significant financial implications down the line.
Oh, wow. Okay, so that's where having a broker in your corner can be a real lifesaver.
Exactly.
Yeah.
A good broker can help you decipher all that legalese, explain the implications of each clause, and potentially negotiate more favorable terms on your behalf. And they can also point out potential red flags, things that you might miss, like hidden fees, restrictive clauses, unfavorable renewal options, things like that.
So they're like a legal translator who also happens to be a master negotiator.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's amazing. Okay, so the article goes on to talk about how brokers can actively protect retailers beyond just finding a space and negotiating a lease.
Right.
They actually help mitigate risks, which sounds interesting.
Yeah.
What kind of risks are we talking about?
Well, you have to think about it. A retail space isn't just four walls and a roof. It's part of a larger ecosystem. The neighborhood, the city, even the overall economic climate.
So it's really understanding that bigger picture.
Right.
And what could potentially come up.
Exactly. So a good broker is going to help you assess the overall risk profile of a property and its surrounding area.
Okay.
So are there any zoning changes on the horizon that could impact your business? Is the area prone to flooding or other natural disasters?
Oh, wow.
What about crime rates and accessibility for customers? These are all factors that could significantly impact your business down the line.
So they're almost like looking into the future a little bit.
Yeah.
Trying to anticipate problems before they even happen.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And they can also help you anticipate potential challenges related to your business itself. What if your business grows faster than expected?
Yeah.
Is there room to expand in the current location? What about parking? Is there enough for employees and customers? These are things that a lot of new retailers don't think about until it's too late. So it's not just about finding a space that works right now. It's about finding a space that can grow and evolve as your business does.
Exactly. It's about thinking long-term and making a really strategic decision.
Okay. This is great information. But I think the most important thing, and the article brings us up towards the end, is the importance of building a long-term relationship with your broker.
Right.
Why is that so important in the world of retail?
Well, because retail is a constantly evolving landscape. Trends change, neighborhoods gentrify, competition intensifies, and you really need a partner who can help you navigate those changes.
Oh, wow.
And make strategic decisions to keep your business thriving. You want a broker who's really invested in your success, not just someone who's trying to close a deal and move on.
Right.
A good broker will be there to offer ongoing support and guidance, even acting as a sounding board for future business decisions. They can alert you to new opportunities that come up in the market. They can connect you with other professionals who can help your business grow, and even help you renegotiate your lease when the time comes.
So they're really like an extension of your team almost, a trusted advisor.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's incredible. But that sounds great in theory. How do you find a broker who can actually do all of that? How do you separate these superheroes from the ones who are maybe not such a good fit?
Well, that's a great question, and that's something that we should talk about right after this quick break.
Sounds good. Okay, so we're back, and we were just talking about, how to find that perfect commercial broker.
Right. the one who can really guide you to retail success.
Right. Because you can't just pick a name out of a hat.
Right.
There are things you should be looking for.
Right.
So what's the first thing a retailer should think about when they're looking at different brokers?
Well, I think experience is paramount. You really want someone who has a proven track record in retail real estate specifically.
Okay.
Not someone who dabbles in everything, office buildings, industrial warehouses,
Right, so not just general real estate.
Right, exactly.
Retail.
Yeah. Ask about their history with retail spaces, specifically in your target area.
Yeah.
You wouldn't go to a brain surgeon if you had a heart problem.
Right. It's like a specialist.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the years of experience, it's about the right kind of experience.
The right kind of experience. Yeah. Exactly. And don't be shy about asking for some concrete examples of their successes, Can you share some examples of successful retail projects you've worked on in the past? That can reveal a lot.
Yeah, and while you're at it, ask for references.
Yes.
Talk to other people they've worked with.
Exactly.
Get their take on it.
Yeah, that can be really valuable. Talking to past clients, you can get a sense of their communication style, their negotiation skills, their overall commitment to their client's success.
Yeah, okay. And I think we have to talk about the elephant in the room a little bit, which is, fees.
Yeah.
How do you approach that?
Yeah. Don't hesitate to ask about their fee structure, how much they charge when they get paid, and what services are included. Yeah. You want to be very clear about that up front.
Transparency.
Transparency, exactly.
And then going back to that conflict of interest thing.
Right.
It's kind of a tricky thing.
It's a tricky one, yeah. It's crucial to have a very frank conversation about this.
Okay.
Ask them directly, how they handle potential conflicts of interest and what steps they take to ensure that they're representing your best interests.
Right. So you want to make sure that they're on your side.
Exactly. You want someone who's on your team advocating for you every step of the way.
Now, you mentioned earlier a broker's property portfolio.
Right.
And I think that's worth diving into a little bit deeper.
Yeah, I think it's really important. You don't want to be limited to just a handful of options that don't really fit your vision.
Right.
So it's important to ask about the range of properties that they have access to. What criteria do they use to match retailers with potential locations? Do they have connections to off-market properties? Do they specialize in a particular type of retail space or neighborhood?
So it's really about their expertise.
Exactly.
And does it match with what you're looking for?
Exactly. Yeah. You want someone who understands your vision and can present you with options that really fit your brand and budget.
So communication is super important in this whole process.
Yes, very important.
How can you gauge a broker's communication style?
Yeah.
Before you even start working with them?
Well, just pay attention to how they interact with you during those initial conversations. Are they responsive to your emails and phone calls? Do they listen attentively to your needs and concerns? Do they explain things clearly and answer all your questions thoroughly?
So they're not just talking the talk, they're walking the walk.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's talk about leases a little bit more. I know we touched on them earlier.
Right.
But these can be so intimidating.
They can be really intimidating. But a skilled broker can be your guide through all of that, all that legal jargon and complex clauses.
So what kind of questions can you ask to figure out if they actually know what they're doing?
Yeah, well, ask about their approach to lease negotiations. What strategies do they use to secure favorable terms for their clients? What are some common red flags to watch out for in lease agreements? Have they ever successfully negotiated a better deal for a retail client? And if so, how did they do it?
So it's really getting a sense of their experience.
Exactly.
Your track record.
Yeah. A good broker is not only going to be able to explain the intricacies of a lease agreement, but they'll be able to advocate for your interests and potentially save you thousands of dollars in the long run.
Okay, let's switch gears a little bit and talk about risk mitigation.
Right.
I feel like that's kind of an overlooked part of this whole thing.
It is, yeah. A good broker isn't just focused on closing a deal. They're thinking about your long-term success and helping you avoid potential pitfalls that might not be immediately obvious.
So give me some examples. What kind of risks are we talking about?
Well, think about things like zoning changes, environmental concerns,
Ooh.
crime rates, accessibility for customers, even the potential for natural disasters. These are all factors that can have a significant impact on your business, but they're often overlooked in the excitement of finding a space.
Right.
So they're really thinking long term. They're also thinking about your business's future growth potential. Is there room for expansion in the current location? What about parking? Is the infrastructure in place to support your future needs?
So it's not just about finding a space that works right now.
Right.
It's finding a space that can change.
Exactly.
As your business changes.
Exactly. Yeah. And a broker who's truly invested in your success will help you consider all these factors before you sign on the dotted line.
Now, we've been talking about building that long-term relationship.
Right.
Why is that so crucial in the world of retail?
Well, retail is a constantly evolving landscape. Trends change. Neighborhoods gentrify. Competition intensifies. You need a partner who can help you navigate those changes and make strategic decisions to keep your business thriving. You want someone in your corner who's always looking out for your best interest.
Right, someone you can trust.
Exactly. Yeah. A good broker is going to become your trusted advisor, your sounding board, even your friend in the business. They're going to celebrate your successes with you. They're going to help you navigate challenges. They'll be there to help you renegotiate your lease, find a new location when the time comes, and even connect you with other professionals that can help your business grow.
Like they're a mentor, almost.
Exactly.
A business mentor.
Yeah.
Okay, but what if the relationship isn't working?
Right.
What if it's not a good fit?
Right.
How do you know when it's time to move on?
Well, that's a good point, because not every broker-client relationship is meant to last forever. There might be times when it makes sense to move on. Whether it's because your needs have changed, your business has outgrown their expertise, or there's just a personality clash. So how do you know when it's time to part ways? And how do you do it gracefully without burning bridges?
Well, it's a delicate situation, and it really requires open and honest communication. If you're not happy with their services, if you feel like they're not meeting your needs, or if you're just not clicking on a personal level, it's important to address those concerns directly.
Have that conversation.
Have a conversation.
See if you can work it out.
Exactly. And if it becomes clear that the relationship is just not working, it's okay to move on.
Right.
But do it professionally and respectfully. Thank them for their time and effort. Explain your reasons for moving on and wish them well.
Right. End on good terms.
Exactly.
Even if it's not working out.
Right. And remember, finding the right broker is a journey. It might take some trial and error, but it's worth the effort to find someone who can really help you achieve your retail dreams.
Now, throughout this whole conversation, we've been talking about communication a lot.
Yes.
We talked about asking the right questions.
Providing feedback, being upfront about your needs.
Right.
But what about the retailer's responsibility?
Yeah.
What can they do to make sure that communication is good with their broker?
Well, retailers often underestimate their own influence on the process. Being proactive, communicative, and organized can make a world of difference. So retailers need to be active participants in the communication process, not just passive recipients of information.
So it goes both ways.
It goes both ways, exactly.
So what can they do to be better clients?
Well, first and foremost, be clear about your needs and your non-negotiables. What are your must-haves in a space? What are your deal breakers? What's your budget? And how flexible is it?
Right.
Having that clarity from the outset is really going to help your broker narrow down the search and avoid wasting time.
Right. So you're not just sending them out on a wild goose chase.
Exactly. You're giving them a treasure map.
There you go. And you mentioned earlier feedback.
Yeah.
How important is that?
Feedback is critical. And don't be afraid to provide really detailed feedback on the properties that they show you. What did you like about each space? What didn't you like? What concerns do you have? The more feedback you provide, the better your broker will understand your preferences and tailor their recommendations accordingly.
So again, it's about being really active in that process.
Exactly. Yeah. You're the expert on your business, your brand, and your target customer. Your insights are invaluable to the broker.
And this might seem kind of obvious, but why is organization so important?
Yeah, organization is really important. Imagine, your broker sends you a list of potential properties, complete with all the details about each space. But you're juggling a million other tasks, and you lose track of the documents. You forget which space had the amazing storefront. You can't remember what questions you wanted to ask about the lease terms.
Oh, that sounds like a nightmare.
It can be, yeah. So being organized can really streamline that whole process from the initial search to the final lease signing. Create a system for tracking properties, keeping notes from your conversations, and organizing all those documents. Treat it like a serious business decision.
Not just something you're doing casually.
Exactly. The more organized you are, the smoother the process will be for both you and your broker.
So we've talked about asking questions, providing feedback,
right,
being upfront about your needs.
Right.
Are there any other communication tips that you can think of?
Well, just be responsive. If your broker sends you an email or calls you with an update, try to get back to them as quickly as possible. It shows that you respect their time and that you're actively engaged in the process.
It's a partnership.
It's a partnership, exactly. And don't be afraid to ask questions. If you don't understand something in the lease agreement, if you're not sure about a particular clause, or if you just have concerns about a potential location, speak up. Ask. Yes. It's much better to ask a silly question than to sign a contract that you don't fully understand. A good broker will be happy to answer your questions and explain things in a way that you can understand. Remember, they're your advocate, and their job is to make sure that you feel confident and informed throughout the entire process.
So we're kind of coming to the end of our deep dive here.
Right.
And, the article we were talking about really emphasizes that brokers can be such a positive force.
Yes.
In the lives of new retailers.
I completely agree. A good broker can save you so much time, money, and headaches.
Yeah.
They can help you avoid costly mistakes, negotiate favorable lease terms, and find a space that truly aligns with your vision and your budget.
Right. But it's a two-way street.
It is.
You have to be a good client, too.
You have to be a good client. Exactly.
Yeah.
By being proactive, communicative, organized, and respectful, you can really maximize the value that you get from your broker and increase your chances of finding that perfect retail space.
And finding that space is just the first step.
It's just the beginning, yeah.
The real work begins when you open your doors.
Exactly. The real adventure starts when you open your doors and welcome your first customers.
And we'll be here to support you every step of the way with more deep dives into the world of business and entrepreneurship.
Exactly.
So until next time, happy retailing, everyone.
So we were just talking about being a good client. What can retailers do to be better clients?
Well, they have to be proactive.
Yeah.
Communicative and organized can really make all the difference.
Okay, so let's dive into that a little bit. Let's get practical. What can retailers do to really maximize the value they're getting?
Well, one of the most important things is to be clear about your needs and your non-negotiables.
Yeah.
What are your must-haves in a space? What are your deal breakers?
Right.
What's your budget? And how flexible is it?
Thanks.
Having that clarity from the outset is really going to help your broker narrow down the search and avoid wasting time.
It's like giving them a roadmap instead of just
Exactly.
Go find something.
Exactly. You're giving them a treasure map.
There you go. Yeah, and you mentioned earlier the feedback.
Is that something that's often overlooked?
I think it is, yeah. And don't be afraid to provide really detailed feedback on the properties they show you. What did you like about each space? What didn't you like? What concerns do you have? The more feedback you provide, the better your broker will understand your preferences and tailor their recommendations accordingly.
So you have to be engaged.
Engaged, yes. You're the expert on your business, your brand, and your target customer. Your insights are invaluable to the broker.
Okay. Now, this might seem obvious, but why is organization so important in all of this?
Organization's really important. Imagine this. Your broker sends you a list of potential properties, complete with all the details about each space. But you're juggling a million other tasks. You lose track of the documents. You forget which space had that amazing storefront. You can't remember what questions you wanted to ask about the lease terms.
That sounds like a nightmare.
It can be, yeah. Being organized can really streamline the whole process from the initial search to the final lease signing. Create a system for tracking properties, keeping notes from conversations, organizing all the documents.
Okay, so treat this like a business decision.
Exactly.
Not just a casual thing.
The more organized you are, the smoother the process will be for both you and your broker.
All right, now communication. We keep coming back to that.
Yeah.
We've talked about asking questions, giving feedback, being upfront about your needs. Are there any other tips you can think of?
Yeah, just be responsive. If your broker sends you an email or calls you with an update, try to get back to them as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
It just shows that you respect their time and that you're actively engaged in the process.
Right, and that it's a partnership.
It's a partnership, exactly. And don't be afraid to ask questions. If you don't understand something in a lease agreement, if you're not sure about a particular clause, or if you have concerns about a potential location, just speak up.
Just ask.
Just ask. Yes.
Yeah.
It's much better to ask a silly question than to sign a contract that you don't fully understand.
Absolutely.
A good broker will be happy to answer your questions and explain things in a way that you can understand. Remember, they're your advocate. Their job is to make sure that you feel confident and informed throughout the process.
Okay, so the article we were talking about today really emphasizes that brokers can be such a force for good in the lives of new retailers.
Absolutely. A good broker can save you so much time, money, and headaches. They can help you avoid costly mistakes, negotiate favorable lease terms, and find a space that truly aligns with your vision and your budget.
Right. But like we said before, it's a two-way street.
It is a two-way street.
You have to be a good client as well.
Exactly.
So being proactive, communicative, organized, and respectful, you can really maximize the value that you get from your broker and increase your chances of finding that perfect retail space.
Exactly.
And finding this space is just the beginning.
It is. The real adventure starts when you open your doors and welcome your first customers.
And we'll be here to help guide you through all of that with more deep dives into the world of business and entrepreneurship. So until next time, happy retailing, everyone.